Nostr that we were going to go live an hour ago.
I'm sorry. I just recorded a TFTC episode with Saifedean Moose, and he needed an hour of wiggle room. So it's my fault. It's on me this week, freaks. It's on me.
The show must go on, though. We made it happen. I'm glad. The reason it's not yesterday is because I was traveling. I'm just glad I flew out before all the all the flights got grounded.
Are the cyber attacks upon us?
You know this is in Mandibles, right?
Yeah. This is like chapter 7.
This is like chapter 2 or something. Still early.
I fired a tweet out. I woke up. I was like, the cyber attacks are upon us. Alex Jones was right again. People didn't catch the tongue-in-cheek nature of that tweet.
I didn't even see it. Did you post it on Nostr?
I didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
So
freaks, we've streamed to the Rabbit Hole Recap Twitter account for a long time, and this week actually it's being streamed to the TFTC account because you need a blue check to stream to Twitter now. So we have some thinking to do.
What do you think, freaks? Sound off in the comments. Should we get the blue check so that we can stream from the Rabbit Hole Recap Twitter account to?
Marty already had blue checks, so we could just repurpose his blue checks.
I mean, it's worth it. I want to get the word out there, man. I'm like use everything at your fingertips.
Do you see average Gary in the Nostr comments? No. Well, if you really mean that, you'd zap us with your no.
No blue checks. No blue checks. That's the consensus in the Zapbot stream.
Our Nostr live stream is rhr.tv/stream. And while I'm shilling links, tickets are selling fast to our live RHR variety show next week on the 25th in Nashville. The link to that is pubkey.bar/RHR. Tickets are only $50. We kept it cheap to keep it accessible. In proper Marty and Matt fashion, probably won't make much money off of this.
Unless you go and buy all the tickets today. They're going fast. And guess what, freaks? Guess what? The Hostile Takeover group chat is buzzing right now with a potential big guest. Would probably be the biggest guest that either of us have had, not only on this show, but our respective shows, if it materializes.
Pretty big guest.
Yeah.
It's going to be a who's who of people. Also, not to tease because you probably can't get in anyway, but Bitcoin Park is going to be fucking lit next week. There's no tickets for sale or anything. It's just members and invites only, but we're going to be at capacity all week. The only day the park is open to the public is Tuesday for BitDevs. So if you are in town, you should definitely come through on Tuesday.
Come through on Tuesday. I'm already exhausted. You said this yesterday and to somebody, and I couldn't agree more. I'm already exhausted. I'm not even planning anything outside the 1031 event and the
part of me wants to leave Nashville. Just go on a vacation.
Well, that's the question. Are people even going to be able to get in? Big news of the day again.
We have a great airport, as the freaks know. Our airport, top of the line airport. I think you're going to enjoy your airport experience as much as possible, considering you're still going to have to go through TSA on the way out. But pretty good airport experience.
I've been flying a lot in the last couple of weeks. I do props where props are due. The TSA with their facial scan that they've rolled out everywhere. It's in every airport, but they do have a sign right above it that says you can opt out of this. So they at least let you know. It makes it.
They get pretty annoyed when you opt out.
The looks I get are.
I hate that. It's such a humiliation ritual, that whole thing. My wife was traveling with our baby, and she always, for whatever reason, just hits the quote unquote random check while she's got the baby in the baby holster. It's just it's a whole thing.
It's Can you hear that?
That's what they took from us. I can't believe we let that happen. That's just. I know Marty's all about the white pill, but
No, I
fucking
mean,
the TSA experience is just
it needs to
missing.
be abolished. It's I got molested on my flight back for my trip this week. Like went to the scanner, red dot right on my balls, and just had some mouth breather rubbing down my legs. He was like, "Do you want to go to the like?" Because I get viscerally angry and like give them
Wait,
looks
wait,
and like they were
the scanner flagged your balls.
yeah, it was bad.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I get visibly angry, viscerally angry, and I'm like, "All right, you're gonna touch me up," and like I've gotten in trouble once for talking back to the TSA, like, "You're really gonna touch me?" And this time I was like in a rush, and he was like, "Do you want a private room?" Because I was looking at him all angrily. I was like, "No, just get it over with, dude. Just rub me down."
The
It's
real
not fun.
fucked up part is like the rich people just fly private and have no TSA. Like
All
if
right.
we should mandate. No, we shouldn't. But if I'm not supporting this. But if rich people had to do TSA, it'd be abolished in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, um, talking about like the administrative state, and obviously we haven't even broached the subject yet, but it's been a pretty big week here in the United States.
What happened?
There was Matt, you didn't hear, there was a failed assassination attempt from President Donald Trump, former president. I don't. How does that work? Do you refer to him as former president, or
Forever.
once you're president?
Once you're president, you're forever president, right?
Yeah. So obviously, as I'm sure all of you know, there was an attempt on his life last Saturday. Um, Pretty miraculous that he's alive. It
Oof.
seems pretty obvious to me that this was not a hoax, as some people are making it out to be.
No way.
Uh,
You can't stage that. You can't stage a 150-yard earshot.
no, no,
It's
can't.
the same. It's the same people that talk about gun policy and have never held a gun in their life.
Yeah,
Like you can't stage that shit. And the animation that like the internet did, a hacker named the internet, of him turning his head was fucking crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Like that was
It's.
a direct headshot, and then he turned his head, and it just barely missed.
I mean, what are your thoughts on all this? Like, did he just did the deep state just try to JFK him? Was it a lone wolf? Was it pure incompetence by the Secret Service? Or did they let this happen?
I mean, we don't have not a like executive protective agents or whatever, not a Secret Service disclaimer or whatever. But like absolutely insane. If you played Call of Duty, like you should know that roof needs to be secured. Like the tallest roof. It's 150 yards. Like I'm still working on my skills. Like my skills are improving rapidly. But like I've hit targets from 500 yards. Like
Yeah,
150 is not necessarily an easy shot, but it's not the hardest shot in the world. And it's the highest roof. Like that roof should be secured. That's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Um, and then I mean on the Trump side, like the wherewithal to stand up afterwards and pump his fist, and that picture is like an insane picture of him with the flag.
I mean, whether
That
you
that
whether you
baller at
like Trump,
service
whether you
agent
like Trump,
staring down the camera.
yeah, whether you like Trump, don't like Trump, whether you think it's a hoax, think it was an inside job, think it was a lone wolf, as they like to refer to them. That picture is iconic. It's undeniable, and will be a mainstay in history books and internet lore for, I would imagine, centuries to come, if we're able to protect the images.
I'm just glad he lived. God.
That would have been bad.
First assassination attempt on a president or a presidential nominee since 81, since Reagan. So first one in our lifetime.
Yeah. Nah, and it was pretty surreal. I wasn't watching the rally, but I was on Twitter. We were watching the Phillies game on Saturday night. Um, And I was just sitting on the couch on Twitter as the Phillies game was on in the background and caught it almost immediately. It was like, holy shit. I thought, like, originally, I thought he got hit with like a pellet gun. Like, I thought like a pellet gun swiped him. Um, and then obviously, we're not Secret Service dudes.
Thank you, Logan, for spinning that up real quick for us. Fucking insane.
But yeah, if it was a successful attempt, I can't imagine what would be going on right now. It'd be pure chaos, and it would be a complete shit show.
I mean,
And
the one thing that is like guaranteed is it's a proof of incompetence.
Yeah.
And like a failure of our institutions across the board, which is something, it's a trend that we have been watching for a while. In this case, the institution is the Secret Service. And, you know, I think there's a lot of validity there in terms of lack of focus, lack of priorities, a lot of focus on DEI stuff and not actually doing the job, which is, you know, protecting presidential candidates and presidents. I do appreciate that Trump went out of his way to, first of all, thank the Secret Service agents afterwards, like almost immediately following, he thanked them and request for RFK to have Secret Service protection, considering his uncle and his dad were both assassinated, which has been a long time coming. But my favorite quote unquote conspiracy is that the powers that be found out that Trump was about to pump the shit out of Bitcoin, tried to end it. Last opportunity they had before the conference to end it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty well convinced that they tried to kill him, they being like the deep state.
Well, that's why you can guarantee incompetence, because if that's the truth, they were incompetent about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the DEI assassin. The deep state is getting so weak they can't even successfully pull off an assassination attempt.
The problem was they chose a white male.
It's crazy. The aftermath of the failed assassination attempt is that Trump, it seems pretty obvious that he's going to win in a landslide. There's been a groundswell of support, not only from American citizens, but a large amount of capital in the form, predominantly coming from the tech sector, Elon Musk, many others putting their weight behind him. He's picked as vice presidential candidate JD Vance, who is a Peter Thiel acolyte and underling. And so it seems like that's
he's young, 39-year-old
39
tech investor.
Yeah, and that's like that. I had a conversation with Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin earlier this week that went out on the streams earlier today. But that's been like, for me personally, just thinking about, like, it seems pretty obvious that it is obvious, like somebody tried to kill him, and
yeah, that's guaranteed.
What like what would have happened if they were successful? And like, so like, and I imagine they thought they were going to be successful and had a plan after that in terms of how the election was going to go. And since they were unsuccessful, like, you've had this vacuum of power and sort of potential paths forward. It seems like people are pouncing on that. And I think JD Vance getting the tap on the shoulder to be VP is like a signal that, like, the Peter Thiel.
It's not a signal. It was like, Trump is one of the most transactional people ever. The JD agreement was, he brings on JD and he gets this new, like, they're not neocons, but they're like the next generation of neocons. It's like, I don't know what the term is going to be. I tried out neotech, but it's not neotech. It's something, but it's like Elon, A16Z, Thiel. Like, they're the new breed of neocon. And there was definitely like a backroom agreement that was like, you put in Vance as your VP, we'll throw our full weight behind you. They all announced that they were donating a shit ton. Like, that was a transaction happened.
Yeah. And here it stands today. And it seems like, I mean, the
Silicon
consensus,
Valley, but they're all moving to Silicon Valley. So it's like, that's a little bit weird to say.
Yeah. I mean, the consensus right now, as it pertains to Biden, is that he's going to drop out of the election this weekend. That seems pretty obvious. Dude can't speak.
I mean, I think Trump was basically a lock to win before the failed assassination attempt, unless Biden dropped out. And now, even if they replace Biden, Trump seems like a lock. But if they have any chance whatsoever, and if they have any self-preservation instinct whatsoever, they'll replace him.
Yeah,
But like, did you see the prediction markets right after the assassination attempt?
yeah,
It
went up to
shot up.
70.
Like, I think it went higher than that. And did you see the Bitcoin price? It's just like green candled on the failed assassination.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier in the week. Imagine if it was successful, like the Bitcoin price probably would have dumped to probably like in the 40 range.
Bitcoin trading on presidential assassination attempts.
Yeah.
It's only 2024, freaks.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, very crazy. And I do think we should go back to CrowdStrike because I do think there's actionable advice and learning lessons as it pertains
Don't run
to.
Windows. Don't run CrowdStrike.
Well, not only don't I mean more broadly speaking, like don't trust closed source software,
Yeah.
and you should be. I think if you're not already aware, uh, I think today has made it abundantly clear that a lot of the IT infrastructure that exists around the world in many companies, many governments, is woefully insecure and has a lot of central points of failure. I mean, one company pushing one bad line of code to one operating system completely ground the world to a halt this morning. Everybody's focused on the airports, but hospitals are affected, banks are affected. This is a pretty severe. This is a pretty severe. Um, what are they calling it? A bug?
Mandibles than Bitcoin Standard. Yeah, they said it's not an attack because we shipped it.
Yeah. And if you look into the history of CrowdStrike, how they're funded, they're big advocates of the digital ID and the World Economic Forum. They pushed it, but did they push it maliciously? You know, that's the other thing. Now people have theories like, was this like a broader part of the plan, like post Trump assassination, like assassinate him, have chaos, and then have this go out and
No, I think
just
this one's just
chaos.
incompetence.
You think so?
I think this one was just incompetence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's bad, but it's not bad enough to be intentional, in my opinion. Does that make sense? Like in Mandibles, it was internet and electricity was out for like weeks.
Yeah, we're not at that point yet.
This is like, okay, your flights are delayed. Like if you're in a hospital that runs Windows, that really sucks. But like they'll get shit back up in a day or two.
Well, I wonder. I think I heard a trend.
Guys are having like the worst weekend of their life.
I think
Like,
we had a transformer blow on the island overnight. Like I woke up at 2 a.m. to a loud boom. Like I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Like
no, it's unrelated.
unrelated. Okay.
I don't know. Call up your utility. Ask them. Were you running Windows? They were probably running Windows.
If you're out there and you're listening and you've been affected by this CrowdStrike bug, there is, as Matt mentioned, they have pushed a fix. You do have to do like a root.
It's like manual. You have to like go into safe mode on Windows and delete something, which means it'll take a longer time for. Like all these systems are like all antiquated. Like they haven't updated shit since 1995. It's going to be a pain in the ass. One of the interesting things that came out of this is both China and Russia have been like switching most of their systems to local distributions of Linux. And this is exactly, the type of vulnerability they were trying to protect themselves from. So I think it goes further to this trend of nation states trying to take sovereignty over their tech stacks, which is a trend that I think Bitcoin benefits from significantly, because you need to take control of your money stack and you don't want to trust other sovereigns with their money. You want a trust minimized money that can cross borders easily and you can verify yourself.
Yeah. And as it pertains to Bitcoin, this is an incredible example of why Bitcoin doesn't push automatic updates.
Yep. Any important software shouldn't. But it also goes to reason why it's a concern when people just like blindly press the update button, even if there's no auto updates.
Yeah.
Like it only protects you so far. It's like it's a reasonable default, but like if you're just gonna like open your Start 9 or your Umbrel and press the big update button, uh, you're not equally vulnerable, but you're still.
I think a way to describe this is it's not a science, it's an art form. Um, I like to wait for a version of Bitcoin Core to be battle tested for some period of time before upgrading, and unless it's unless you're being highly compelled to upgrade, and then that gets into like, if I'm being compelled, should I actually upgrade to this one or upgrade to a
Well,
previous
yeah,
version.
that's where it's really dangerous. Is like we covered it about Wasabi last week, I think, which is
Yeah,
like there's some issue, and then they're rushing everyone to update, and then the update gets man in the middle and is malicious.
yeah. Again, art form, not a science. Be aware. With that, we should go to Clark's dashboard because we did have a difficulty adjustment yesterday. The current price of Bitcoin, wow, we pumped. We're pumping 66,340 cuck bucks. One cuck buck's going to get you 1,507 sats. The current market capitalization of Bitcoin is 1.31 trillion. We are currently at block height 852,902. As I mentioned, we had a difficulty adjustment yesterday. That was an upwards adjustment of 3.2%. Blocks were coming in at 9 minutes and 37 seconds on average. We are currently 1,882 blocks away from the next difficulty adjustment, which is estimated to be on August 1st, 2024. As of right now, it's still a little early, but not too early. It's looking like it's going to be a downward adjustment of 3.5%. Blocks been coming in at 10 minutes and 23 seconds on average since yesterday's retarget. There are currently 125,595 transactions in Clark's mempool. If we go over to mempool.space, we'll see that they have 192,555 transactions. Fee rates right now relatively low. If you have a high priority transaction, you're going to want to put a 9 sat per VByte fee on that transaction. Medium priority 8, low priority 7.
There was some summer doldrums there. We got down to like 4 sats per byte, but
no, you missed it. They cleared. They cleared when you were in the air yesterday.
You lie.
Another stat that I think we should highlight this week, considering the price pump and the 3.5% difficulty adjustment, is the hash price, which last month or earlier this month reached an all-time low at 4.5 cents per terahash per day. Currently standing at 5.2 cents. So the price going up post assassination attempt has been good for hash price, which has been good for miners. Miners were living through the worst economic conditions in the mining industry in history only a few weeks ago, and the price going up fixes that. So I'm sure there's been a bunch of hash rate that's plugged in.
What was the headline? It was Bitcoin surges past $63,000 after Trump assassination attempt. Just a ridiculous headline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freaks, if you're in the live chat, whether you're in the YouTube live chat or the Nostr live chat, sound off if you're going to be in Nashville next week. I'm curious. I feel like vibes are high. I feel like a lot of people will be in town next week.
Yeah, who's all going?
Can we do a quick thought experiment, Marty?
I like thought experiments. Let's rip it.
Logan, not a lawyer. If Trump buys a shit ton of Bitcoin, personally, and then says good things about the coin and like makes different policy changes that benefit the coin, and so the price runs up significantly. I'm pretty sure that's completely legal because it's not a security.
Not lawyers. Thank you, Logan. I have no idea.
I think that's completely legal.
I would worry more about like election laws and what you have to disclose and when you have to disclose it.
Okay, now let's say that not only he's doing that, but he's getting a bunch of donations from Bitcoiners who have Bitcoin bags that also increase in value with those policy changes.
Yeah, I mean,
Does anyone really think that's not going to happen?
I think it's already happening.
I feel like a lot of people are in denial here. I think without making any price calls, I think should be a crazy year going forward from this point in terms of Bitcoin price action.
I mean, if the rumors are true that were spreading last night, which is that I'm sure you've all heard them. So
don't fuck that blue check.
I'm not going to credit that, but
just don't name him.
Yeah, the rumor is that there's going to be an announcement about a strategic Bitcoin allocation at the conference next week. People think that Trump's going to come out and say we're going to put Bitcoin in the U.S. Treasury or somewhere within the United States government. And if that, I mean, who knows if the rumor leaking would prevent it from being announced if it were to be announced? Who knows if it was never meant to be announced or if it will be announced, even though this rumor has gotten out there. But let's just run down the hypothetical scenario, which it is announced or something like that is announced. It's game on. Like, this thing's going to run pretty rapidly, pretty quickly. I mean, it's the geopolitical game theory that we've been talking about for 15 years now. And if you have the wealthiest nation in the world signaling that they're going to acquire Bitcoin as a strategic asset, that's a massive signal to the rest of the market.
Nation state FOMO.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just have to, you don't even have to follow any rumors, just like follow the incentives. Like, just look at it with clear eyes. I mean, the strategy remains the same. You just stay humble, stack sats. Humble enough.
That's complacent, though, Matt.
Just follow.
It's a weak mindset.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a little bit irresponsible to be like saying just go all in. Even if you can go humbly all in.
Okay.
Which is what I practice.
Yeah. Go everybody. On that note, everybody go use Zaprite, pay over the Lightning Network, and buy your pub key tickets. But don't buy them like next week.
No leverage. Price
is running. Just go buy. Like, help us stack some sats. Go buy some tickets.
Help us stack some sats. All you have to do is follow the incentives. I'm pretty sure that's completely legal, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So, operate humbly under that assumption.
Yeah. Shout out to the Zap.stream live chat. This is something we should probably mention too, like Jamie Dimon being floated as the Treasury Secretary. That sends a couple signals to me. Not only that, but I think it was Bloomberg had an interview with Trump in which they asked him about Jamie Dimon's posturing towards Bitcoin, and Trump alluded that Jamie has changed his mind and is more welcome to Bitcoin. But I think more importantly, the fact that Jamie Dimon is being considered for Secretary of Treasury is really interesting because it signals to me, at least, I don't know if you guys got the signal too, that it Trump probably sees that there's economic turmoil on the horizon, and he would like to have a seasoned veteran in terms of dealing with banking liquidity issues within the Treasury, excuse me, if that were to materialize.
I don't think Dimon will be Treasury Secretary.
You don't?
But maybe. I think we have the most likelihood of having a Bitcoiner in treasury than we've ever had in the past. It's like 90% chance it's a Bitcoiner in probably the most important seat for a Bitcoiner to be in, besides the presidency. And if it's not like a Bitcoiner that is like known, it's like a closet Bitcoiner. So maybe that falls under Diamond too, but I mean Diamond can go fuck himself. I just don't. I don't. I think it's unlikely that he becomes Treasury Secretary.
I don't know why he would want to do it. That just seems like a lot of responsibility to take on. Maybe he welcomes that responsibility. I did see a tweet that said if he were to do it, it would actually enable him to sell $1 billion. Like he'd be forced to sell $1 billion worth of
That's
JP Morgan stock without having to take a tax hit.
right before mandibles.
Yeah. Yeah, just get tax-free billion. So we'll know. We'll know in a few months. Yeah, crazy times. Crazy times. Over to the list. This is a Bitcoin podcast. We have been talking about Bitcoin, but there's other stuff going on in the world of Bitcoin that you guys should be aware of. One of which is that Arthur Hayes's Maelstrom Fund has launched a Bitcoin developer grant program, which is incredible to see.
Yeah, this is really great to see. Hayes has always been on the forefront of this. I mean, BitMEX has supported many developers, and their lead that was running BitMEX research is now running this program. I think it's Beer, right? It's Jeremy Beer. Is that correct? Is that his name?
I believe so. We have the volunteer firefighter alarm going off behind me. Let me know if that's.
But it's the guy that runs the BitMEX research account. So apologies if I messed up your legal name. But he's awesome. He's a legend. He knows what he's doing. And this is just really good to see in general. I think it's important that obviously I think it's important, but I think it's important that we have orgs like OpenSats and HRF and Brink that kind of take away a lot of the friction and the burden for companies to support developers because they don't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But it's also really great to see companies just do it themselves and run their own programs um, and have full control of how those funds are dictated. It takes a lot more effort. Now, this is something we actually do at 1031 as well. I think they might be the second fund ever to do direct Bitcoin funding after us. But this is something that I think is particularly interesting because if you are running a 501c3 nonprofit, there is certain tax information you have to take of grant recipients. And if you're supporting developers not from a 501c3, you have a little bit more flexibility for the recipients, which is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Now, there are ways to mitigate some of those privacy concerns using LLCs and other strategies. But it remains the case that if you are receiving funding from a 501c3, it's quite difficult to do it privately.
Yeah, sorry. We've got.
I can keep talking. I would just like to see. I just want to see as much funding as possible to open source contributors and as much diverse funding as possible. And that's not like a call out to DEI stuff. That's, as many organizations doing it as possible, so you don't have central points of failure. So you don't have these pressure points that can be corrupted and pressured. So really good to see. Hopefully we see more of it. A lot of the conversations I'm having behind the scenes is momentum is building quite strong in terms of supporting open source contributors. I know some of the people out there, maybe they're not listening anymore, question some of my tactics and how I handle myself. But I will say we're in a very good place, and future is bright on that front.
It's very bright. And as it pertains to these Maelstrom grants. There is rolling applications going till August 24th of this year. They'll be giving out grants between $50,000 and $150,000. Those will be annual grants. And so if you're an open source contributor in the Bitcoin space looking for a grant, you have a little over a month to get your application in to the Maelstrom Fund.
Was it 50K to 100K?
150K.
Okay, and it's worth noting to the developers out there. I mean, most of you already are aware of this if you're actually an open source contributor looking for funding, but most of us are willing, as long as things are disclosed, you can double up. So just because you get funding from them doesn't mean you can't get additional funding from OpenSats or HRF or something like that, or Brink.
1031.
1031, exactly.
No, I think you were being a little humble there. It is unique. It's great to see Maelstrom doing this, but it comes out of our management fees at 1031 too, which for typical venture funds, you take those management fees, you invest them in your company or pay yourself out with them. And that's one thing I'm very proud that we do at 1031 is take a portion of those fees to support these open source contributors.
I strongly believe that humans are inherently hypocritical. And the way you try and solve that is to actively reduce your hypocrisy as you live your life. And it's important to lead by example. So it's constant self-reflection and leading by example. And more people should do that.
Agreed. Keeping up with grant announcements, OpenSats has announced their 5th wave of Nostr grants. This is your wheelhouse. I'll let you take it away.
Pretty excited about this. We just keep trucking. We keep trucking. We actually had another Nostr grant that came out while we were live on air, which is HODLBOD, long-term support for HODLBOD. One of the cool things that HODLBOD does is his focus is quite unique in the Nostr space. He's specifically, I've had long conversations with him. Like his specific goal is like, we have not been successful until my church group has switched off of Facebook messages and Facebook groups. And he has this idea of like this combination of private discussions, like small invite only discussions, and then wider public discussions. So like an example would be like the Trump assassination attempt would come in from, CNN's Nostr account or wherever that news comes from. And then the church group can then discuss that just among themselves without like the wider internet being a part of that discussion, which I think is a cool concept and you really can't do without an open system in the first place. So that's pretty awesome. And then on the 5th wave of Nostr grants, I mean, there's a lot here. So you should definitely read the whole the whole blog post. But I'll just call out 2 of them. I think npub.cash is a really interesting project. npub.cash, basically, like if you have a Nostr account, you automatically have a Lightning address with this particular eCashment. So it makes onboarding much easier in terms of receiving your first Lightning payments on Nostr. It's definitely, like almost like an early MVP. Obviously, it's still custodial, but it's a pretty cool project. And then Citrine, I think, is a really interesting project because it has you run a Nostr relay locally on your Android phone, which has some interesting implications. I know Will, JB55 of Damus, he's basically re-architecting his whole stack based on this concept where you have like a local cache, like your local relay. So performance is quite good. And then you connect out to the broader relays. But yeah, the Nostr grants keep going. I don't know how many total we have now. I think in total across Bitcoin and Nostr, OpenSats is funding over 150 projects. I think we're close to 200 contributors are being paid out from OpenSats, which is kind of crazy when you start to think about it. And one commentary that I'll just nip in the bud that I hear often is like, oh, we're like, Bitcoin devs need funding and these greedy Nostr devs are getting all the funding. Like the Nostr support side of OpenSats is a completely segregated set of money. That's if you donate to the Nostr fund, it goes to Nostr devs, and if you donate to the general fund, it goes to Bitcoin majority Bitcoin devs, with like some projects that are like tangentially related to Bitcoin, like Tor and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my commentary.
Well, you're providing a good segue for a topic I just threw on the list. If you want to pull up the TFTC article. Speaking of Tor, this is cool to see. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this because it's an area where I'm not well versed, but it seems like, having done the research after Callie talked about this over the last week, that it seems like it could be viable. But this concept of injecting a basically connection, a bridge between Nostr and HTTPS, so essentially enabling individuals to reach Nostr applications in the browser pretty trivially.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is cool, but I think you misunderstood it a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's, I mean, a little bit above both of our pay grades, so I don't fault you for it, and I'm not going to speak on it like I'm an expert. But like you specifically said, it doesn't have a DNS dependency. It still has a DNS dependency. It uses the NPub and the Nostr network for discovery, which is a massive step forward. But he's still relying on TLS, HTTPS. So to do that, like you have to have a certificate authority. You have all that same dependency that you have. Maybe not all the same dependency because of the discovery element, but you have to have a domain. You have to have it registered with a domain registrar. You have to have your TLS certificate. From one of the like 3 certificate authorities that everyone uses. But the reason for that is because he wants compatibility with existing systems. So it's always like a give and take. Um, and then the other interesting thing we have on the Nostr side is what Pablo released yesterday, because he thought RHR was going to be on Thursday. So he rushed out that release to get it out in time. And then he had a whole day. What's he calling it? Nutsack?
Nutsack. Logan is a big fan of this name. He was telling me before you hopped on the stream.
Big nuts guy.
I was just surprised it took this long for something to be called this.
Yeah, it is probably one of the better names in Nostr. Fortunately, he didn't call it Nutsackster. But the general concept is, you have if you have an NPub, if you have a Nostr account or a Nostr identity, however you want to call it, you automatically effectively have a eCash wallet. And all that information is stored on Relay, so you don't have to do any kind of separate backups. And now, once again, this is custodial, but because it's eCash, it's a private and fungible custodian. So you're not giving up privacy to the custodian, and I think by default it will use a couple mints, so you can spread out your funds among the mints. But I think this is a perfect example of not letting perfect trade-offs stop us from building, a lack of perfect trade-offs to stop us from building. Like it's very rare that you get everything you want in a tool. And we have to realize that what we're competing against is the status quo. And if we can make significant improvements to the status quo without increasing friction and keeping the UX very good, that's a massive net benefit for humanity. And so in this comparison, what is the status quo? Well, the status quo is like signing up for Twitter and KYCing with like Israeli intelligence to receive dollar fiat payments through Stripe, which is completely custodial and horrible. This is obviously way better. It's a massive step improvement to that, or signing up for Venmo or something like that. I mean, like so many people in Nashville use Venmo. It's insane. This is a huge step improvement on that. And it also goes towards the trend that we've been talking about a lot lately, which is, I think like the standard for Zaps will become eCash. I think LNURL was like the start. And it's just eCash works so well for this use case. So I think this is like the first real big step. Maybe mpub.cash was the first real big step there. But yeah, I think this is pretty big.
Yeah, and whether it's this or the HTTPS connection, I think it really highlights, and that's what I really wanted to get at in that newsletter. And I think you may be right, is I may misunderstand it as way above my pay grade, particularly when we get down to like network level stuff and how they all interact. It seems like you can have quasi Tor functionality using Nostr on the open web, which is pretty cool. And
we're at least like going to that direction. I don't think this does it.
Yeah, I think what signals to me is like the entry exit node topology that is similar to Tor.
The problem, like I said, the problem comes down that the HTTPS, right? The little lock on your browser, TLS. Like he wants that compatibility. Like you could take this a step further and just break traditional browsers and not be able to work with the current web stack. And then it can get really, really interesting. But then it's not backwards compatible. But there's something there, and I like the idea of interoperable, permissionless web discovery.
Kieran from Zap.stream saying if relays had pub keys, you could build onion-like messaging on Nostr. But
that's the next step, right? Is like relays probably should have be discoverable by pub keys. Rather than right now they rely on DNS as well. This is also another perfect example, by the way, of Callie's LTS grant with OpenSats. It's not like in his proposal he was like, oh yeah, I'm also going to try and solve this problem.
Well, to be clear, he's not the one who made this, right? He's utilizing it for, I think he wants to connect it to a cashew mint, and that was.
Well, who made it?
I mean, he says he didn't want to. I think the dev wants to remain anonymous, but in his post he said, to be clear, I didn't make this.
No, fair enough. Well, he definitely built a bunch of shit on top of it then.
Yeah. But again, the overarching, whether it's this, what Pablo's built, what's being discussed in the Zap.stream live chat right now, I think it highlights that this is, and we've said this many times, but I think these are tangible examples of Nostr being much bigger than some social media competitor.
Yeah, but I don't think people should fade the social media aspect.
No,
I think, it's bigger. I think the social media aspect is one of the key bootstrapping mechanisms, right? Because people like to shitpost. One metric I've been following is anti-Bitcoin reply guys on Nostr. We're starting to get there.
Numbers going up. I've seen it too.
That's bullshit.
There's a lot of Monero stands on Nostr. There's a lot of no pointers.
It started with the Monero guys, but they're obviously more aligned than just like Bitcoin deniers. Like we have just straight up Bitcoin deniers on Nostr now, which is wonderful to see.
Can you zap them?
No, usually you can't. I always try, because I think one of the best things is like someone attacks you in the comments and then you send them some money. It's like
good shot there.
Yeah. But if they use mpub.cash or they use Nutsack, like we can solve that.
Yeah. And being conscious of time here, you have 25 minutes left.
Yeah, I have another podcast after this.
Yeah,
a big one.
We'll get to the Human Rights Foundation Story of the Week section of the show this week, coming out of Saudi Arabia, which the Saudi Arabian government sentenced a teacher to 20 years over tweets. Saudi Arabia's counterterrorism tribunal sentenced Assad al-Ghamdi, a 47-year-old teacher, to 20 years in prison for social media activity that challenged the religion and justice of the king and crown prince. Al-Ghamdi's post included criticism of Vision 2030, a nationwide economic overhaul, and tweets mourning a deceased fellow activist, which resulted in law enforcement raiding his home at night and arresting him in front of his family. Al-Ghamdi was then held in solitary confinement for months and was refused proper care despite suffering from epilepsy. Similarly, his brother Mohammed Al-Ghamdi was convicted in 2023 over tweets linked to an anonymous Twitter account that criticized the regime's economic policies and called for the release of political prisoners. For this, he was sentenced to death. Both of these sentences are part of Saudi Arabia's repression of free expression and stifling of civil society, as evidenced by the regime going so far as to target dissidents' families to force compliance. HRF has called for Al Ghamdi's brother's immediate release and access to necessary medical care. If you want to learn about more of these types of stories, week in and week out, the Human Rights Foundation puts out a weekly newsletter. You can sign up for that at financialfreedomreport.org.
Incredibly fucked up. 20 years for tweets.
Yeah, it's really bad.
So, like, what's the white pill version of that?
More people being aware of it can highlight the problem and hopefully lead us to a solution toward a more civil society.
Well, what about, I mean, so this is a perfect example of why it's so dangerous to KYC social media. Because if you are the central entity that is doing that, you could be pressured by governments to give up people's identities. So Elon has said many times he will protect NIMS. When he says that, he means you will trust him with your privacy and he will try not to release it. But as we know, with almost all centralized databases, they're inevitably leaked or compromised at some point, and you have to operate under that assumption. I think this idea with Nostr that you can just spin up as many identities as you want at will with no permission is incredibly powerful in places where speech is so restricted, as we see in this case. Now, Nostr still, has certain privacy trade-offs in terms of network level privacy, but I think we can mitigate a lot of those on the client side. I would like to see more clients basically operate in this way. I mean, Amethyst right now has a anonymous reply feature. I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes you get particularly spicy replies in your Nostr comments, and it's just like a random npub. That's Amethyst's anonymous reply feature. So it just spins up a brand new npub just to send a single message. And then that npub only sends out one message, and then the identity is burned.
Yeah.
So I think
that's the white pill. That was a good white pill. I needed that after reading that story. Dude, we almost got 1 million sats worth of boost on last week's episode. Germany dumps while Trump pumps. RHR 313.
How many times have we put Trump in the headline of RHR now at Logan?
It's the new
double digits?
runs continue.
Okay. That's with the boost. Thank you, freaks, for your support. That's massive.
Yeah, top 4 boosts are all over 80,000 sats. Top boost comes from Gary Kraus, who boosted 99,000 sats. Good day, freaks. If you're in Nashville next week, Bitcoin veteran Citadel will have high signal workshops, ham radio, Meshtastic, Mention-Kura, Ethernet making, Start 9, Surveil Yourself on Chain, eCash 101, Stratum V2 101, BitAxe 101. Come hang out and nerd out with the warrior class of Bitcoiners. The Bitcoin Veterans panel is at 900 hours on Saturday on the Genesis stage. Bitcoin Veterans run at 6 a.m. Friday. They're putting military time in here to fuck with me. Gary, you're not going to fuck with me. I know how to read military time, okay? 6 a.m. Friday, the Bitcoin Veterans run. Bitcoin Veterans meetup will be at 7 p.m. on Friday. Beware the Yeti. Shout out to you, Gary.
They should have used Zulu time, though. Why they use Central time?
I don't know.
Do you know what Zulu time is?
No.
It's just a cool way to say UTC.
Okay.
It's what the military calls UTC.
Zulu. Next boost at Corey San Diego boosted 90,000 sats. This is my first boost in the history of boost, maybe ever. The next San Diego Bitcoiners meetup will be Thursday, August 8th at 6 p.m. at Quantum Brewing in Kearney Mesa. Go to blog.sdbitcoiners.com for more info. Come by Cold Card Q. There are only 4 official Coinkite resellers in the United States, and this meetup is one of them. Shout out to all the sovereign Diagons. Diegans. I literally just Ron Burgundy on air.
By the
Shout
way,
out
Bitcoin Mark is one of those
Chopper
resellers.
Diegans.
Is Bitcoin Commons one as well?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty cool buying a hardware wallet in person. Very, very nice.
Go pick yours up today. Product placement on air. It's a beautiful device. I love it. OK Sharp boosted 88,888 sats. Palindrome boost 8s across the board. Continuing shameless shill of TabConf, the Atlanta Bitcoin Conference, a technical Bitcoin conference which will be held on October 23rd to 26th, obviously in Atlanta. Go to www.tabconf.com and shout out to the ATL BitLab, Atlanta Bit Devs, and Atlanta Bit Plebs. Atlanta coming for Nashville and Austin.
Love to see it. Well, Atlanta's like a sister city to us. It's like a 3-hour drive. And also TabConf is one of the best conferences of the year. So consider going.
Final boost of the week from last week. Stimmy boosted 80,085 sats, a boobs boost. With everything going on in the world right now, the question we should all be asking is, when's sausage?
Oh my God. Shout out you. True OGs. Only the OGs know that reference.
Probably one of the funniest moments in Rabbit Hole Recap history.
Well, I appreciate the support, freak.
So your mom, it was your mom just came in and held up a sign.
Yeah, we were having sausage for dinner. This is during COVID.
When sausage?
It was my interim when we evacuated Brooklyn and before Nashville.
Yeah.
Crazy times. Never skipped a week of RHR, though.
No. We actually increased our pace at one point.
We might have to again.
Yeah. What do we have next here? That was the top 4 boosts of the week. Thank you guys for boosting, and all of you who are in the Zap.stream live stream, zapping us as you listen. Any comments in the stream that you want to call out, Matt, while we're in this section of the show?
Yeah, I mean, just a quick shout out to the top 3 zappers in the Nostr live stream. Weirdo Robot, Easy, and Sawzall with a cumulative 25,000 sats. Thank you.
Yeah, and next week is the last RHR ever. It should be noted there will be Logan is going to be at the conference as well. So we're going to record live. If you want to get the information as it's being brought to the market, you have to be at 6th and Lindsay at the venue to actually hear the content. Logan, when do you think you'll be able to get the recording out? And that's actually dependent on the PubKey team and whether or not they can turn on the audio.
Whenever they get it to me, and I'll be back in Austin on probably Sunday. So
it'll be up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So if you need the info as it's coming off the press, you need to get there. So go to pubkey.bar/RHR, get your tickets today. Software updates section. We mentioned Nutsack, talked about it. 2 more software updates that you should all be aware of. Phoenix Android version 2.3.4 has been releases with fixes and improvements. Zeus Wallet version 0.8.5 and version 0.9.0 beta have been released as well. And that version 9 beta, which I think you have to be a contributor to Zeus to get access to. Evan talked about it at the Bitcoin John meetup last month, and it seems like it's a pretty massive improvement.
I see Rob in the Nostr comments. The RHR is not sold out yet. Only the VIP tickets are sold out. You're not the first person to think that after going to the website. So if the PubKey team's listening, considering they're in the live chat, you guys are making it really confusing for people. I mean, it doesn't look that confusing. I think it seems pretty obvious that they're still available, but I'm not trying to blame the freaks. I'd rather blame PubKey.
Well, PubKey's in there. 3rd and Lindsay. I said 6th and Lindsay. Thank you, PubKey, for
You'd figure it out. Yeah, pretty crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty
It
excited.
is. I'm as well. I am as well. We got a hot dog eating contest too. If you want to participate, we need one more participant. If you want to
Yeah. What's the
indulge in a gluttonous. I don't know if we've. You get a nice pat on the back if you win.
you get a shout out.
You get a shirt. You get a firm
Well, how about
pat on the back.
whoever wins the hot dog contest, we'll remote them in for RHR the week after. How about that?
Yeah.
Not for the whole episode, but we'll bring you on for a bit.
Yeah.
Does that
Pablo.
It's like business on the air. Marty, I think Marty's upset with me. Are we cool with that?
No, wait. I was distracted by Pablo's porn comment in the chat. I wanted to address it, but will you repeat what you just said so I can react appropriately?
Whoever wins the hot dog contest can come on air, not the week following next.
Yeah,
we'll have them remote in for a bit, not the whole episode, but they can come on air if they want to. If they want to remain anonymous, they don't have to, but I think that'd be fun.
I do as well. I like that idea. What I don't like is Pablo spreading fake news in the comments, which is he looks forward to me yelling at Trump about his porn addiction. Trump is an anti-porn guy too.
Trump is anti-porn guy?
Yeah. Well, you want me to find the tweet?
Okay. I mean, you could say a lot of things about Trump, but sexual ethics isn't really one of them.
Hey. Talk about my president like that, sir. I'm kidding. Logan, pull up the tweet.
He only watches his porn in person.
I got the receipts here. He was on Howard Stern many years ago. And Howard asked him, when Melania is tired and you're horny, do you masturbate to take care of the problem? Trump said, no. When was the last time you masturbated? Long time ago. Sometime prior to knowing women. Really, come on. It's a lot of work and it gets you nowhere. I was never big into that world. Let me ask you something. No porno? You don't sit there on the computer and no. Trump, not a porn guy.
Now you know it's true.
Yeah. He said on Howard Stern.
Literally had a sex scandal with a porn star.
Doesn't mean you watch your movies, You could have just been a serendipitous encounter at a bar.
Okay. Fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I love you, Marty. Sweet summer child.
I am a summer child. I do love the summer at the beach.
Now I'm completely distracted. I was going to say something else. I don't remember what else I was going to say.
White pills. Crazy out there. I think we narrowly escaped complete chaos last Saturday. Thank God things went the way they did and not the way they were intended to go, because it would be absolute chaos here in the United States. Big week next week.
Massive week.
Takeover. We've got the conference, obviously. Trump is going to be there. Many other people are going to be there. Any conference tips, considering the increased security that will come with?
Oh my God, security is going to be crazy. I mean, I would say it'll probably be one of the more secure events, Bitcoin conference wise. And like even at the park, like even before the assassination attempt, we had lined up paid security at the park. But okay, conference tips. First of all, talk about Bitcoin. Don't talk about your own Bitcoin. How you secure it, how much you have. If you must talk about it in percents. You're all in, or you're humbly you're short Bitcoin because you're only 5% in Bitcoin or something. If you must talk about it. The devices. Assume any devices you travel with will be compromised. They probably won't be, but assume that. It's just a good practice. Don't tell people where you're staying. A lot of people will be in hotels, stuff like that. Don't drink too much. Keep your wits about you. You have any other advice? I think those are pretty good ones. Don't connect to just random Wi-Fi that says like free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think the penultimate one. Don't get too crazy. It's Bitcoiners get together, they like to drink, rabble rouse. I've been guilty of it myself in the past, but that's one thing I'm going to be highly conscious of, is trying to keep my wits about me and keep my composure throughout the week.
That's very good. That's just good life advice.
Yeah. You don't want to be the drunk guy at the conference.
Also, don't wear Bitcoin swag through the airport. Like in general, that's not even just conference strategy. Probably not a good idea.
No. Yeah,
Even though
that's all we. I expect to see every one of you on this live stream. Actually, it'd be impossible for every one of you to go because there's more on this live stream than we have tickets available. But many of
What's
you.
our capacity? Our capacity is 500 people at the venue.
I think it's 600, including VIPs and guests and everything.
Yeah, that's what I thought originally, and then I saw 500. Okay, 600 people. It's gonna be lit. I expect a sold out crowd.
Yeah, and they're going fast. I mean, we predicted it was going to go this way, and that ticket sales would start accelerating towards the lead up to the conference. And yesterday confirmed that we sold the most tickets that we have up to this point. We're getting close to the limit, so do not wait.
We have average Gary in the comments speaking very clearly, saying that you should go talk to the Bitcoin veterans about OPSEC and awareness. They were trained by the state. It should be disclosure. We were trained by the state. But anyway, great guys. They also have been helping the park on the security front, which is great. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate all of you. Can't wait to see many of you in person next week. Can't wait to see you in person next week, Matt. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a long one. Prepare yourselves. Hydrate.
I'm pretty sure as things stand right now, my panel is right after Trump on the main stage. It'd be fucking crazy.
All right, I'm gonna come back and prep you up for your panel, and hopefully, maybe get a handshake.
I'm always happy to give you a handshake, Marty.
Okay, thank you. All right. You go have fun on your next podcast. Are you allowed to tease it at all, or are we keeping it on the DL until it airs? It's a pretty big one. He's going to record a pretty big podcast. It'll be public at some point in the future.
Jack Dorsey, Kathy Wood, Alex Gladstein, Mike Schmidt, Rod Rudy on the ARC podcast feed. I think it drops in like a week. Stay on Stack Sats.
Tell everybody I said hey.